Hmm. Good morning. Welcome to Sunday. Today we're going to talk about delusion. Buddha identified three principal causes of delusion. And the thing about delusion is people think, at least for me, when you say delusion, I think about people who are experiencing some sort of psychosis. A guy I worked with, a patient a long time ago who thought he was an FBI agent, that sort of thing. But it's a lot more subtle than that. So I'm going to talk a little bit today about how our assumptions and projections separate us from what's actually going on and contribute to uncomfortableness. Excuse me. I'm trying the YouTube. We're also on YouTube, and made some adjustments. I'm trying the Facebook feed again. We'll see what happens with that. So, I'm also going to introduce, another tool for practice that I've learned. So why don't we assume a meditation posture? And that would be a posture where you are alert but relaxed. Where it's easy to just focus and be aware. You might want to rock back and forth just a little bit to help you find a place to rest in the center. Maybe from side to side a little bit, just to help your body find the center. And gently close your eyes. And let's start by taking a few slow, deep breaths. And as you exhale, just relax and soften your body. Relax your diaphragm. We tend to hold our stomachs in. Just let it hang. And let your diaphragm relax so that you can breathe more deeply. Without pressure, without force. We're letting things happen rather than making things happen. And on the out breath, relax your shoulders. And let your breathing return to normal. Notice the sensations of the body where you contact your seat, where your hands are resting, the feeling of your hands resting, the feeling of your feet on the floor. And let your attention and your awareness come to your breathing. However that works for you. Just the gentle awareness of your body breathing. For some people, it's easier to focus on the belly or the chest, moving up and down. Some people focus on the sensation of air moving in and out of your nose. Just letting your awareness rest on the sensations of the body breathing. This is a practice of being here, where you are now. The mind can wander out of the present moment. And when you notice that you've wandered, just say gently to yourself, here. If you want, you can use that as a mantra to help stay anchored. On the in-breath, just gently say, here. And on the out-breath, if it works for you, here. As in to be really here. Just resting your awareness on your breathing. And being here. Here, being really here. The simple awareness of here, just being here, here. And as we come towards the end of this sitting, Just allowing your mind to rest here in this moment. Here in this moment is where your awareness is. You're really here. Your awareness is unmuddied, clear. And may whatever clarity or awareness or benefit of any kind you receive from this practice help you look out at the world around you with kindness and compassion. May it be that the benefits of this practice allow you and help you to move through the world as peace. May the benefits of this practice radiate out to the people in your household, and to the people in your community, in your neighborhood. May the benefits of this practice be available to all beings everywhere, and to enable you to touch all those you come in contact with kindness and compassion and love, free from the fetters that pull us out of the present moment and make it more difficult to do that. Free of our projections and our assumptions, just being here with what's happening here. May the benefits of this practice be of benefit to all people, all beings, everywhere. May all sentient beings be happy. May all sentient beings be well. May all sentient beings be safe. May all sentient beings be at ease and at peace. Thank you for your practice.
Thank you, Ken.
A couple of quick announcements. I put the usual information up in the chat window. The information to get to this set, my website, donation information if you feel so inclined. Also, I will be doing the meditation and Dharma talk tomorrow. Tomorrow's Monday, at the Louisville Vipassana community at 6:30. And I have posted the Zoom link for that. feel free to come and join us. So, Buddha said in the opening of the Dharmapada, I have my tiny little Dharmapada here. We are what we think. All that we are arises with our thoughts. With our thoughts, we make the world. Can't argue with that. And I was also trying to find where I had heard, it might be Thich Nhat Hanh, but I'm not sure, where I had heard nothing can harm us more than our own unguarded thoughts. And Buddha spoke to this when he talked about delusion being one of the sources of suffering. Because our thoughts are real, but they are not true. They're real in that we hear them and we relate to them, and they are cleverly disguised as truth, but they're not true. There's sort of a mishmash of what's happening now and our assumptions based on past experience, whatever mood we're in at the moment, and whatever pops up at random. I don't know if you've noticed this while meditating, but sometimes I notice that my thought stream is just going off into the weirdest stuff. Like the playlist from when I was working in radio stations in 1979. For no apparent reason. It just goes there. And there's a word in Pali, moha. It translates loosely, delusion, confusion, or dullness, sometimes synonymous with ignorance. It's a delusion that interferes with knowing what's actually going on in the moment. And the mind is often creating ideas and concepts that are not based in reality. So, without watching, we can start living or making decisions based on assumptions and fantasies that are not really based on the way things are right now. There's a term for this, projection, or there are projections and there are assumptions. And it occurred to me as I was contemplating this talk, I've been talking about delusion for the past few weeks. The delusion that we're not okay. The delusion that is presented to us in doubt by self-doubt. The delusion that we can't accept ourselves. These are all delusions and assumptions. And if we start, the more we come from that space, the more difficult it is to navigate the world. When I'm talking about projections, I'm talking about ideas and biases that we may or may not be aware of in the present moment that affect our decisions and choices. Where these are generated, there's a boatload of literature on how that comes about. But these are thoughts and feelings that influence our responses, whether we're aware of it or not. Here's an example. I knew a woman, this is 20 years ago, and I was living in Sacramento. Was that really 20 years ago? Holy cow. Like a lot of people in that area, my husband was a computer geek. And he sold large, enterprise-wide computer systems to big corporations, and he was trapped. And he did that as a salesperson, and he texted her that he was going to be having dinner with Leslie. And she got extremely jealous of Leslie and fired back this unbelievably inflammatory jealous rage. And it turns out that Leslie is a guy who specs out large computer systems for possible acquisition at a Fortune 200 company. And it almost crashed their marriage. She was operating on a set of assumptions that, based on her experience, that was not reflective of what was happening in the present moment. The mind creates an idea of what's happening at the present moment, but it's not what's actually happening. One way to think of this is your mind is like a giant filing cabinet. The drawers are miles long. And something happens right in front of you, and we reach back somewhere into that filing cabinet to something that looks similar, roughly, pull it out, hold it in front of us, and that is the filter through which we are seeing what's going on. And one of the things that we do with that is we tend to project our hopes and our happiness onto things that don't really provide happiness. Destination addiction. Tethering our well-being to things we want, to people that we think will make us happy. And it helps, it interferes by creating aversions to things that aren't really here and attachment to things that are ethereal. Here's another example. My mother is an alcoholic and a child abuser. And as a result of that, I had a really hard time relating to women of that age and generation for a long time. Not so much anymore. I've done a lot of work on this. But the turning point of that came for me when I was fairly early in the 12-step thing. And there was this just sweet little old lady. She was just trying to be nice to me. And I was treating her like she was going to give me bubonic plague. And she literally cornered me as I was like heading out the door. She like stepped right in front of me and said, "I'm just trying to be nice to you and I'm not her." And it like startled me, woke me up. And I realized in that moment that I was taking something from the past that didn't exist anymore, imposing it on a benign present and creating a whole new reality out of that. We do this all the time. Sometimes we're aware of it and sometimes we're not. Because our experience, you may have heard me say this before, our experience is in two parts. Here's what happens. That's kind of like cast in stone. It just kind of happens. Here's what we tell ourselves about what happens. These are separate. The Hopi Indians are extremely interesting, by the way. Believe that in every situation there's 88 possibilities. I have no idea how they came up with that. I don't really care. I just like it. They have a ritual where they will make someone jump up and down on one leg until they can name all 88. If any of you decide to do that, invite me over to watch. So here's what happens. Here's what we tell ourselves about what happens. Here's just this. It's this one thing. Over here, there's 88 possibilities. A few weeks ago, someone on this Zoom call disappeared in the middle of the call. Poof, gone. And I went to, I must really have like bored that person to death. Just didn't read. Poof, gone. And I went to, I must really have like bored that person to death. Just didn't reach that person until this individual contacted me and said they had a technical glitch and got booted off the call. we all have our top 5 set of assumptions that are rooted in the built-in negative bias of the mind. That we project into the world. Mine include people are getting rid of me and I can't do things right and blah, 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 blah. And as I've said before, it's all just blah, 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 blah. I had a conversation with a friend of mine last week who just got a promotion at work, which is really exciting, except that she's nervous. She's doing that thing that we all do when we get like new jobs or new assignments on jobs, assuming that we have to master the whole thing by yesterday. We're the only ones who are making that assumption. The people we work with are not assuming that. They're assuming that there's a learning curve and we'll get to it at some point in time. And one of the things she said to me was, it's going to be a very tense couple of weeks. That's a delusion. I said, if you decide it's going to be a very tense couple of weeks, it's going to be a very tense couple of weeks. If you decide you're doing the best you can and it's good enough, it'll feel like that. If you decide you can just sort of roll with it and figure it out as you go along, it'll feel like that. If you decide that they're like watching you at every moment, waiting for you to make a mistake while they are inching your chair closer to the door, it'll feel like that. 88 possibilities. Now, as I say before, we're not going to get this. We're going to practice it. The best we can do at this point is notice when we're notice when our assumptions are taking over our realities, our projections are taking over our realities. One of the things that I like to ask people when we talk about stuff like this is, what do you know that you can actually observe that is happening right now? Because that's the only thing that really is available to respond to. I'll give you another example. Assateague Island, if you ever get a chance to go out there, go out there. Is essentially a 20-something mile sandbar off the coast of Maryland in Chesapeake Bay. And you can camp there. You can't drive out onto it. You can drive out to the parking lot. It's still beautiful, but to really see it, you have to hike out there. And there are campgrounds, right? Loosely campgrounds, where you're allowed to camp. And what makes them a campground is there's one water pipe that runs the length of the island, and every 5 miles there's a spigot. That's it. It's the water pipe, deserted beach, wild horses, and the ocean, and you. And I was out there with a friend of mine, and we were out there for 3 days. And on the morning that we were hiking back, it started to rain. We're talking like rain here, serious rain. And we had to get back. So we're packing up our stuff in the tent. And I'm saying, God, this is really going to suck. Right? This is going to be a really arduous hike back. And basically, he told me to shut up. And what turned out to be true, it turned out to be this really beautiful experience, because I had never seen the rain fall on the open ocean. And the rain does not fall on the open ocean. It sort of like drifts back and forth on its way down, and does this like little dance. And the way the horses deal with it is they don't care. They're just like standing there. And I'm like, this beautiful experience, but I had projected this whole thing into it. So it took me the first, I don't know, probably 25 to 45 minutes of that hike to come out of my head and my projections and assumptions and look around and say, oh my God, this is uniquely beautiful. And the point of that story is just to illustrate how with our assumptions and projections, we exit the present moment. We do it all the time. When I was still working as a therapist, people would come to me and say, I'm messed up, I'm screwed up. I'm saying, okay, that's a set of assumptions and projections. I say, what if you're not? You're just wounded. You're not broken, needing to be fixed. You're just wounded. We heal wounds. When I was a therapist, I'm not a fan. I don't really believe in diagnosis. Some people think that's heresy. I don't really care. The insurance companies demand that we put a diagnosis on the form. But I would never tell somebody what their diagnosis was. Because some people tend to sort of like wear that as a cloak then, and then it becomes the lens through which they see themselves, which leads to the assumption if I'm broken, not I'm wounded. One's a delusion, one's a reality. So we focus on what we actually know. What do we actually know? One of the ways you can tell that you're inside of these sorts of projections and delusions is to contemplate, have I ever felt this way before? And is whatever happened before, and look at it, and is this actually happening again? Or does it just sort of feel that way? Is it really different? Because chances are it's really different. And come back again to focusing on what's right in front of you and what you actually know. And mindfulness is a key tool for this. Mindfulness is the antidote to delusion. Developing the capacity to recognize when we are looking through the filter that we just pulled out of the giant filing cabinet behind our eyes, and to push it aside and focus on our moment-to-moment awareness. In my moment-to-moment awareness, I am sitting here and, I'm the guy at the meditation retreat. If you go on meditation retreats, there's always like one or two guys who are always like rearranging their pillows all the time. I have a new configuration that I'm sitting on. And I see some of your beautiful faces in front of me. And that's all that's going on. I can hear the cat purring behind me. You probably can't hear that. That's all that's going on. That's it. My thoughts, I'm offering anything of value, which I'm not really struggling with that today. My thoughts about what's going to happen later, which may or may not happen, none of that matters. I'm just here like right now with you and digging it. Mindfulness helps us become aware of our automatic thinking, our prejudices, our biases, that we may not even notice are influencing our present experience. Like the woman who cornered me at the 12-step meeting. My present moment experience was I was standing with somebody who was just being kind to me. My wounded projection was that this person might hurt me. Not reality. So it's helpful to ask ourselves the question, if we put our assumptions aside right now, just like literally just sweep them aside, what do we know to actually be true? So I'm going to leave you with a challenge to be aware of that. Now, you're going to have moments when you're aware of that. And because the mind has a negative bias, you might tend to be hard on yourself for the moments where you notice that you haven't been aware of that. Shostakovich was not born a master musician. He learned it by playing one note, and then another note, and then another note, and another note. Keith Jarrett once said he didn't know how to play the piano. He put his hand on it, and that sounded really beautiful. He decided he wanted to do something with that. And then he became Keith Jarrett, but it didn't start off with piano improvisations at Avery Fisher Hall. Right? It didn't end there either. Anytime we notice that we have been in a trance of delusion, projection, or assumption, anytime we notice it is good, even if it's only fleeting. And when we notice it, it's not an opportunity for us to beat ourselves up for not having noticed it 15 minutes ago, right? Which is something some of us tend to do. It's an opportunity for self-compassion. So, I invite you to be awake and compassionate with yourselves. Thank you for your kind attention. Does anybody have any comments or questions? Okay. Jen, nice to see you.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you, Carol.
Thanks, Ken.
I will see some of you on Monday, I guess.
Yeah, see you
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Take care.
Hope so. Thank you very much.
So,